Hello and welcome to a video, and today we're going to be ranking the top 15 LRs within the game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. So this list is going to be composing of a few things. There's a few things we're going to be discussing about, and that is how good are the characters are on their teams, but also how good are these teams that you can even run, right? Like, we all know that the Gammas, for example, are incredible in Special Pose, but Special Pose is not really a team I'm looking to run, is it? So, their performance on Special Pose won't really be taken into as much consideration as opposed to maybe how Beast Gohan performs on a superior team, such as Superhero, right? Just because a character's advantage somewhere doesn't necessarily mean that we're really going to be taking that into account really as much as something else, right? And I think that's quite important to consider. So I think we should probably get started with ranking some of these characters, and I don't see a better candidate for number 15 than our boy, Physical Boo Gotenks Absorbed. He's coming at number 15. This guy's very solid around the board. He is dodge or die, but he does have some benefits to running him still. He has the passive healing, which is very valuable. He also, once transformed, does have quite considerable defense. He can at least tank the normals in pretty much most content. And in addition to that, he also can attack break the enemy as well as potentially seal them. The sealing is very valuable for Cell Max specifically. He can completely lock down Cell Max because his sealing is for 4 turns. And this guy's on very powerful teams, including Majin Buu Saga, as well as Uncontrollable Power. And he's a great addition to these teams. If you can take advantage of some of the abilities he does offer. He also does link exceptionally well with Pacific villains. As once transformed, he has both the Metamorphosis link as well as Big Bad Bosses, which can definitely help bring a lot more firepower to your other characters, as well as a little bit of extra passive healing, in addition to his passive healing that he has through his passive skill, as he does regenerate HP with both his links as well as his actual passive skill. This guy's great. He's going to keep your team alive, provided he does not get one-shotted by the big boss supers. But he does have a mechanic that does allow him to at least survive these attacks, which is his evasion. He's a bit flimsy turn 1, but once you get to turn 4, that's when he starts looking pretty good. At the number 14 position, this is going to be pretty controversial, as I have not used this unit yet, but it's going to have to be Jiren. Jiren does have a big issue, and that is he is a standby skill character. And there is quite a lot of standby skill characters on the teams you will want to run this guy, as you can run this guy on Ultra Instinct Goku's leader skill, and he does perform pretty good there. But the issue is that if you're running Trusted Will alongside Universal Survival Saga characters, you'll quickly see the cracks that Jiren has, and that is there's a lot of standby skills that he is competing with. There's like the physical Super Saiyan Goku, Gohan, and Trunks, and there's also the Gamma 1 and 2. The Gamma 1 and 2 desperately want their standby skill. They are very bad without that standby skill. And the issue with the Super Saiyan Goku, Gohan, and Trunks is they just cannot take the big hits without their standby skill either. They desperately need that in order to take the big boss super attacks, as they will die quite a lot without that extra help. But the issue that Jiren has is he hogs that standby skill, as I'll be honest, he isn't that good if you don't stand by Jiren immediately, as he's only got 60% damage reduction, which is good, But for a slot 2, and he also has no guards, and his damage is pretty mediocre, it's not great. He is very good, though, when you do get the standby skill off with this guy, as for the next 5 turns, he is effectively invincible. And if you put him slot 2 or 3, he does give attack support for 2 turns, which is very valuable. That allows your units to hit way harder. Although he is not attacking himself, which is a bit of a con, as while he is giving more, however, while he is giving attack support, which allows your other units to hit harder, he himself isn't contributing any damage, so you're not really going through events quicker with during support, unfortunately. But it is still a nice ability, considering he's an ultimate tank. However, you don't really want to put him in slot 2, but I digress, he's still a good tank, right? And once you get to full power, he does get a single turn of the Force C ability, which I'll be honest, isn't really that useful as it's only for the 1 turn, but it could come in handy as it could prevent you from dying on that specific turn, right? So it's not worthless. It is still quite good. And he does have a few other nice things about him. He does have a chance to stun the opponent. That's quite effective against specifically Bulma as well as Cell Max. Not really that relevant elsewhere, as the enemy is immune to stunning in most fights. And the fights that aren't immune to stunning usually do become immune to stunning at some point during the fight later on. In other words, when you get Jiren out in full power, where he's got the guaranteed stun. But yeah, he is pretty good overall, which is why he's on the top 15. But he does get outshined by other characters, unfortunately. Another controversial opinion. We're going to have Cell Max immediately after Jiren. The issue I find with Cell Max is he does contribute a lot of damage, but he doesn't really contribute much else. Like, he does have the attack attraction mechanic, and I'll be honest, that is very, very powerful. It is a very strong ability if you do get it in a battle. If you get it for turn 6, you pretty much win after that. Because, like, Cellmax, you can safely float him off that turn. He has ridiculously high defense that the enemy can't go through with their attacks. And Cellmax also does do quite a lot of damage that turn, especially if he takes the super attack that turn, as he does do a lot of super attacks, usually for very high damage, as he does have a bit of build up by then. But my issue with Cellmax, is he's quite weak at the start of the fight. And I've seen the memorial battles, I've ran Cellmax in the memorial battles, he gets smoked in there. Those hit way too hard immediately for Cellmax to really do anything. And unfortunately, you can't take advantage of his additional super attack upon taking a super attack, which is a shame because he's just not tanky enough to take it. So, yeah, this guy is getting pretty badly exposed right now. If events continue rising in difficulty, I think Cellmax is probably going to get kicked off this top 15 relatively soon. But for now, he's a pretty good damage dealing unit. Doesn't really do a whole lot else for you, but he can do a lot of damage. He does attack all, which is nice as well. He has the attack all ability. And he can do pretty high damage, to be honest, when given the right turn. I think just below him, or just above him, should we say, I think we're going to place Int Evolution Blue Vegeta. Unless I'm forgetting about someone. Which I might be. No, in the Evolution Blue Vegeta is fine here. This guy, This guy is very good on his first turn. He has both guard and 50% damage reduction. I don't find this guy gets his abilities off very frequently anymore, though. He just feels like a worse AGL UI Goku, to be honest. I would say his damage reduction abilities are not as powerful as Ultra Instinct Goku's evasion chance, and unfortunately, his active skill doesn't do as much damage due to the lower multiplier. The attack all ability on the active skill rarely comes into play. It is very good when it does come into play, though, because it does give him pretty much full build up immediately if you haven't already got it. But it is a bit unfortunate that it doesn't do the highest damage and against single target enemies. And this guy does overall struggle more for ki, because unlike Ultra Instinct Goku, you can't just put in Evolution Blue Vegeta in slot 1 and him take a bunch of hits, get his ki up immediately, and then boom, he's at 24 ki turn 1 quite easily. Unfortunately, in Evolution Blue Vegeta doesn't work like that. He needs to attack in order to get his ki, which means that you can't benefit from that additional ki until the following turn, which is a big issue with this guy, especially as both Evolution Blue Vegeta and Ultra Instinct Goku, they do get a big burst immediately to their survivability turn 1, and then after that they kind of fall off quite a lot. As they can be very easily exposed and take high damage, potentially killing you. But Evolution Blue Vegeta doesn't have that edge turn 1 for ki, which can be an issue as he does overall less damage. Because of that. Also, I don't like this guy's revival condition. He has to get hit 5 times. That isn't really that good. He can very easily just not get his ki. He can very easily just not get his revival skill, unfortunately, due to having to get hit 5 times. There are usually characters that are much better to prioritize for getting hit, such as Beast Gohan, for example, on his teams, with conditions for abilities that are much more mandatory. Ultra Instinct Goku just has a much better revival skill condition, and we'll cover that when we get to him. But yeah, that is Vegeta. There's not really much else to say about this unit. He is a very solid filler, in my opinion, to the teams you can run him on. And what else do you want from an Evolution Blue Vegeta? Like he's pretty solid overall, right? Just a really good addition to practically any team you run him on. Anyway, I think the next unit we're going to cover is gonna have to be AGL Broly. I'll put AGL Broly at 11. This guy is higher than Evolution Blue Vegeta, and there is a reason why. Now it is true, Broly can easily die more than Evolution Blue Vegeta. You know, because Broly doesn't have that burst damage reduction, right? It doesn't have that burst damage reduction plus guard that Evolution Blue Vegeta has. So Broly does die turn 1 quite a bit more. But Broly also does a lot more damage than in Evolution Blue Vegeta turn 1, though, as he doesn't struggle nearly as much for ki, and he does overall much more super attacks, as Broly has a lot of super attacks guaranteed. In Evolution Blue Vegeta, he's relying on a 77% chance. Right, so Broly usually does perform better than Evolution Blue Vegeta in these fights, in my opinion. AGL Broly is very good slot 3, as he is at his absolute strongest in slot 3, and he fits on many great teams, including Uncontrollable Power. You've also got his own team, Full Power and Transformation Boost, and that has a lot of characters on it, by the way. You can also run him on the Miraculous Awakening team led by Beast. He's usually not the best option there, because he has pretty low HP, so you don't really want to run him on anything less than a 200%, but yeah, he's also on man, there's probably other teams he's on, but I just named a few, right? But this guy's great. Really, really good. And once you get into his domain, he does a very scary amount of damage. He can absolutely tear the enemy to pieces with the sheer amount of attacks he does. And every single additional he does is an attack all additional too. So he can be very good, even in more niche game modes, like the training with Cyberman event, for example. Like, this guy is the reason I even got the title, you know? Like, he can be good in even more niche game modes. Bardock Siege is another one he's really good in. So yeah, he's a great unit to have, and he works really well on a lot of teams. And his domain, I don't go too crazy about it because you do get it very late into these fights usually, but it is good because it does give you a huge attack and defense boost to the rest of your team when it's applicable, which is very good, as some of these other units on your team, they can be hitting very scary numbers. I've seen like 30 mil damage from some units. Some units I've seen shot up to all the way up to 100 million, like 109 million for one of them. I wasn't using items either. Like, getting that kind of buff on some units can really make a huge difference, and you just tear the enemy to pieces, which is really good. Anyway, guys, we're finally into the top 10. And I think to kick off the top 10, I think we're going to place... I think to kick off the top 10, we're going to throw in... Just give me a chance to find them. We'll start it with Gogeta. Gogeta Blue. This guy's very good. He's a bit squishy turn 1. But once you get to his transformation turn, he does give you a full heal. He also has the ability of Rainbow Orb changing, which is very good. He has a powerful active skill ability once he's transformed, which does give attack attraction to himself. And he also has guaranteed evasion during that too, which can be very valuable. He can just completely stop that turn. He does have a few flaws though. He's not really the tankiest unit. This guy can definitely get caught very easily in fights, I've found. Another flaw this guy has is he can even die when he's in Gogeta Blue on the very first turn he's transformed, as unfortunately he does not gain the attack attraction until the following turn, which can put you in a very dangerous situation if you don't have the right units with him, right? But he's pretty good overall. The free heal has saved me a lot of times, and I think he's very worthy of the top 10. I pretty much always run him on superhero. He's usually the first unit I pick after Beast Gohan. So, and I think that just goes to show how pivotal he is for that team. But he is not completely flawless, though. I personally wouldn't want to run 2 of him on movie heroes, for example, as you start to see the flaws with him very quickly as soon as you start to run more than one of him. But, he's still pretty good. I cannot lie. He's still really good. Anyway, next we're going to rank a very solid unit. I'm going to put Tech Gogeta next, which is a bit controversial because I'm only putting him at number 8. Hey, listen, guys. Listen, this guy's good. Base, I'm not too crazy about, though. Him base. He's just okay. Can he die? Yes. Very easily. I've seen him die. He can very easily get you killed. Especially if you're doing like fights that hit really hard, like Memorial Battle. Like, this unit can die. Like, trust me, I've seen it happen. In slot 2 especially, this unit can die in some difficult fights. But he's pretty good when he's transformed, as he does get the crazy 80% damage reduction until he attacks. Then after he attacks, he has a super attack nullification against unarmed. So against unarmed supers, they pretty much can't hurt him at all, which is very powerful. He has the scouter ability, so you know that if a super attack is going to be targeted him or not, or one of your teammates, which can be quite nice if you're not sure where the enemy's super attack placement is going to be on that specific turn. And he does also have the heal as well, which isn't that great because he does have a pretty annoying HP condition, which is you have to be above 70% HP in order to fuse. So the heal usually doesn't heal you that much, especially since it's only 30% heal. But hey, it's still a thing, right? That he has. He does also Rainbow Orb Change, just like the Gogeta Blue. The reason I put this guy higher than Gogeta Blue is literally just because this guy, before he fuses, is actually a little bit better defensively than Super Saiyan Gogeta overall. Just a little bit stronger defensively, as this Tech 1 does take a little bit less damage. That's the only reason they're higher. To be honest, I think Gogeta Blue is a little bit better transformed overall, just because he has the attack attraction ability. His heal is higher. It also he can transform into Gogeta Blue without a HP condition, which is very important. And he also does have the he also does heal for one extra turn too. So he you know, if you take damage before the taunt turn, you know, he can get you back to full HP. So even if the enemy does survive the taunt, you're pretty much at full HP for the following turn, which is crazy powerful, right? But take Gogeta. I think he's way better before you transform though, because Gogeta Blue's very, very weak defensively. I'm not saying Gogeta Blue can't be caught. Of course he can. Like turn 4, he can get supered. He might not. He could fail to dodge and then instantly die, right? But once you get to turn 6, he's literally invincible. He cannot be touched. And like take Super Gogeta, he also cannot be touched. But the thing is, Gogeta Blue, he cannot be touched, and neither can your teammates be touched, which I think is more viable than just having one unit that cannot be touched themselves, right? And they're both Rainbow Orb changing, which is the main thing that people are crazy about Tech Gogeta. But I'll leave Tech Gogeta higher though, literally just because he has the better base form, which does matter in these fights. Definitely does quite a bit. I think after him, I think we're gonna go with STR Gohan. STR Gohan is very good. Very good. He does have an issue though, and that is he is quite squishy. I'm sorry, he is. Like defensively, he's about power evade your Broly. I think he is. Unless, of course, you glaze him with support, and we'll go over that unit later. But yeah, he is about power evade your Broly. I've seen this guy can die very easily turn 1. I've seen it happen a lot. He does have a standby condition. He is considerably better in the standby defensively, but he cannot attack, and he also takes up your standby slot. You know, we've been through this with Durin as well. It isn't completely free though. Yeah, you can do it turn 3 just like Durin, turn 3 from start of turn. He does also have a HP condition, so you can do it immediately if you so desire. I wouldn't really recommend doing it immediately, just because this guy does need to build up from attacking. So if you decide to stand by him turn 1, like if after you've used the standby, what's next? You've got to go on with no build up. He's gonna die, right? You know, especially against these like fights later on in the phases, right? But you could do it immediately, right? And honestly, if you're planning to defeat the event within the 5 turns of the standby, you should be okay. You should be okay overall. But specifically, this guy, like, before he builds up in base, he's very weak. I've seen this guy die quite a lot. He usually doesn't do very high damage unless you give him a 24 key as well, which doesn't help at all. But yeah, overall though, I think this guy's pretty solid. if you're gonna run him, you're probably gonna run him on probably Bondamaster Disciple or Majin Buu Saga. I think they're the two big teams you're gonna run him on. I don't think you'd want to run him on his own team. I don't think his own team has that many good slot 1 options. It has a bit more than the other team that people usually run him on, but yeah. I'd say this guy is pretty good overall. Just he does have some flaws though, and he is mostly a damage dealing unit, which is fine. Like he does do impressive damage, and he can definitely contribute to that quite a bit. Just don't expect him to live any super attacks because he definitely won't. Against like the tougher bosses, if you don't stand by with him, you do want to get him below 70% HP. Very important you do that quite early on in the fight because that can give him the evasion chance. And with the evasion chance, he's actually, I would say he's defensively, he's pretty solid. Like when you get below the HP threshold to do his evasion, I'd say it's pretty solid because like he has enough to tank the normals then, and then he also has the evasion, which could be clutch for the supers if he needs to dodge a super, right? But without that up, he's very squishy. He dies quite a bit, so it's a shame. Just above him, I'm gonna put the Super Saiyan Goku, Gohan, and Trunks. This unit just unfortunately just doesn't do enough, in my opinion, to really warrant being that much higher. Unfortunately, this unit can die like very easily, which is a shame. Because this unit does give a huge amount of support. 77% defense for 2 turns, very powerful. And he also has the attack support as well for 1 turn. This unit can be very good for strengthening up your other units. Unfortunately, this unit does die a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I've seen this unit die quite a lot in my runs when using them as a friend unit. I've also seen him die quite a lot on other videos and live streams. This unit's just not that good defensively, unfortunately. During the worldwide events, though, this unit was pretty good, but these bosses just weren't hitting very hard anyway, so it's not really saying a huge amount. I might come off as someone who I might be coming off as someone who hates this unit, but it's just unfortunately how it is, really. Also, this unit does have a standby skill, which can save them from the big supers. Unfortunately, they've got the most annoying condition ever for this kind of ability, which is turn 5. Why do they have to wait till turn 5 just to be able to survive a super attack? That is honestly so terrible. But it is what it is. This unit is easily the most glazed unit of all time, I think, from the celebration. I don't even want to say it's just straight up bad. It's they're a good unit. It's just, their strengths come from their ability to support, and it's not really anything else, I would say. Anyway, to top off this number 6, Age-Old Ultra Instinct Goku. The evasion, the dodge king. What can I say? He's the dodge king. Turn 1, he cannot be touched. He also has a very easy revival skill condition. You just have to get below 70% HP, and then he's immediately active. Very powerful. This guy could very easily save your life in a run. Although getting below 70% HP is not exactly free. You do need to be very cautious, as if you do take either you need to take a big super from your strongest unit and just hope it's enough to be below 70% HP, or someone who's a bit weaker needs to take some hits head on from normals, which if they're supers, they could easily get you killed, right? It's not free, but I have got this off. I do usually get this off accidentally quite a lot. Whereas in Evolution Below Vegeta's revival skill, it's not accidental. I have to go for it, right? Whereas this guy, I can get it off accidentally, which I think is much more powerful of an ability if you can just get it accidentally while you're just playing the game. But yeah, Ultra Instinct Goku definitely, I think, is a solid number 6. He's pretty much invincible on certain turns, and the turns he's not, he might have a revival skill up and just save your life like that. He also does pretty good damage too. His damage is a bit higher than Evolution Blue Vegeta's, as he has more attack than Evolution Blue Vegeta, and he also has a much stronger active skill multiplier. Um, and the guarantee crits, same guarantee crits Evolution Blue Vegeta has, but this guy can get key from dodging. And keep in mind, his dodge chance is guaranteed on his first turn, so usually you'll get him fully built up on that said turn. So yeah, this guy is very good. And I can't think of any unit more deserving for the number 6 spot. At number 5, I decided to put Tech UI Goku. Yes, I am aware I just called Age UI Goku the Dodge King. And I'll be honest, he is better overall at dodging, just because of his turns where he's guaranteed dodge. But Tech Ultra Instinct Goku, he beats UI in some fields that Age UI Goku does not even have. Right, he has the Domain skill, which is very powerful. It can strengthen your other characters around you. His Domain also does give extra evasion chance for the first turn it's active, which is great for Ultra Instinct Goku, for example, who we just mentioned, because that turn, he's going to have almost a guaranteed chance to dodge, which is so powerful. And Tech Ultra Instinct Goku, he also has a guaranteed evasion on his first turn while the Domain is active as well, and he also is a counter attack unit when transformed, which is just so good. Also, Tech Ultra Instinct Goku, he does raise your allies' attack and defense on super attacks as well, which is just so good. Like that just makes everybody else on the team way tankier. He does have some flaws though. He can get caught. Attacks can hurt him if he doesn't dodge. However, he does have some backup damage reduction and guard, however, so usually you don't get one shot off of them. Which does put him above most other dodge characters just by default, just for having that. Unfortunately though, if he does get hit by a super attack, unless it's a really weak one, he probably won't survive it though, just because his defense isn't the craziest. Damage reduction on its own can only get you so far, right? But he's still pretty good. I think his abilities are excellent, and he's a great fit to any team you put him on. And his damage on his first turn, you get the domain out, is so insane. It really is. I mean, even the turn following, but especially turn 1, where he's got the guaranteed evasion, and you guarantee every single attack that's in front of him, he's guaranteed to counter. Just so strong. Just such an excellent unit overall. Just above him, I'm going to place a unit that came out very recently, Easy A, Physical Janemba. This guy is very easily my number 4 spot. Ever since I ran this guy, I don't think he's ever got me caught. He has the 50% evasion chance against super attacks. He also has both guard and damage reduction. Like, this guy does everything, and he does pretty good damage too. I've seen this guy as high as 25 million damage. Like, that's pretty good for a unit that is pretty much invincible. And he does have a SA nullification too against Ki Blast Super specifically. And he also has a Rage mode, which you can do at turn 6, as long as you're above 66% HP, which is laughably easy, by the way. And what that does is it allows you to not only do a lot of damage due to his Rage mode, but prevent the enemy from doing a super attack on you that turn, as if the enemy does a super attack during the Rage mode, it actually prevents them from being able to launch a super attack for that turn. Now, there are some bosses, however, that don't super attack every turn, but the really hard ones usually super attack every turn they're on, such as like Goku and Frieza, for example, right? And against these bosses that super attack every turn, like being able to just take that away from the boss is very powerful. However, keep in mind his rage mode does only last for that one turn. If the enemy doesn't super attack that one turn, it will not take away the super attack. But just because he can do it, I think that's still very strong. And he does do a lot of damage himself as well, which is very, very powerful.
as well as being able to have good survivability as well. This guy does die a lot less than Tek Gogeta, for example. And he's also on the Uncontrollable Power Team, so he's a great addition there. I've also ran him on Super Saiyan 3 Goku's Accelerate Battle Team as a filler addition. And he does work pretty good as a slot 1 on that team. And you compare him with like Bootanks and have like a pretty strong rotation there. Metamorphosis, Fierce Power, Legendary Power. Once once Boo absorbs Gohan, you also have the Big Bad Bosses link. That's pretty good. And Janemba's just great. He's just a great unit. And coming in at number 3, we have is Beast Gohan. Beast Gohan's a great unit. What can I say? You put him slot 1. He has the you put him slot 1. He has 60% damage reduction along with guard. He's gonna survive most attacks. Once you get him built up, once you get the either 5 super attacks off or he gets hit 8 times, whichever comes first. He then also has 80% damage reduction within that entry animation window. After the first 5 turns, though, he does fall off a little bit as he does lose his entry animation, which does lower his damage reduction by 40%. I think once it goes away, that does matter. So but he's still pretty good defensively, I would say, even with only 40% damage reduction and guard. And if you do save his attack attraction skill for that turn, then he loses the damage reduction. That can help make up for it just by giving him like huge defense, right? This guy's not invincible though. He can die. He can very easily die. Like big attacks can wipe this guy away, like very easily. I mean, he's not invincible, right? He only has like 60% damage reduction. Like turn 1, like this guy can get hit hard, especially against like really tough bosses like Janemba that do really high damage. If you put this guy slot 2, he's gonna take huge damage from Janemba, right? He also can get blown away as well. Once his entry animation goes away, as if you haven't built him up, he's gonna only have 40%. If you haven't built him up, he's only gonna have like I don't know 20% damage reduction, right? Like something like that. Or if you've got him, or if you fail to give him like 24 key super, he might also struggle for damage reduction as well. This guy can die, but usually if you play right, he's pretty much invincible if you play him correctly though. He's just very strong. What can I say about him? Also, he's a attack attraction turn. If you play him specifically in slot 3, he can do very high damage and just completely wipe the floor with the enemy, right? As he does get a guaranteed additional super after he gets hit. But yeah, there's a few. But yeah, the reason he's at number 3 though and not any higher is literally just because he's restricted to slot 1 for most of the fight, and he also does fall off defensively relatively early on in the fight. Like once we get like in the longer fights, like boss rush for example, like you can easily see his damage reduction like wear off before you're even halfway through it. There isn't too many long fights though right now though, so it's not really that big of a point, but it's still something to mention. The characters that are higher than him don't have that issue at all, so that's worth keeping in mind. Anyway, I'm gonna stop blabbering on and mention the next unit, right? And that has to be Broly. Ain't Broly. This guy has been getting so much disrespect from the community, and I don't even know why. This guy is very good. He has the domain, which he can do. Yes, I know it's another domain. There was another domain character early on in this list, right? But there haven't been. But this guy gets his domain very late into the fight. We're talking like turn 5 from start of turn, right? And like most other characters, they get their domains pretty late as well. Like Physical Rose, for example, like he doesn't get his domain till turn 6. Or if you run off like a full super boss team, you can get it turn 4. But let's be real, who runs super bosses, right? You know, in Broly though, you can get his domain turn 1. Yes, boys, you just run a full uncontrollable power team. You can do his domain whenever you want. That is very strong. Also, if you're fighting a Goku family enemy, he can also do his domain immediately as well under that condition. So you can even throw Broly on a mixed team, and he could still be a very good asset to your team. But in Broly, this guy does tank better than Beast. I would say overall, he does tank better than Beast, definitely. Um, like I see Imp Broly take comparable damage to Beast Gohan in some of these fights, and Imp Broly is way more impressive to me because his domain usually is buffing the boss. You know, like Gohan, he takes like comparable damage to Janemba in like the Janemba, fight, and Broly's giving Janemba 25% more attack, and he's still, tanking hits for comparable damage. I just find that insane, right? I know there's a few people that will be like, "Oh, but Broly doesn't do any additionals. Broly don't do any additionals, so therefore he can't be that good. He don't do any additional." That doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like this guy hits what, like 22 million on his super. What is Beast Gone doing in comparison? Like 13 million. Like that's like 30 million's good, but like let's be honest, Beast like additional for 9 million isn't really making up for that. Isn't really like helping too much when it comes to the gap like that. Now, granted, Broly does only have super effective rather than crits. That does matter. That does matter. But Broly could also get an additional off with a hidden potential, and that will do more damage than Beast Gohan's Ultra Super. I don't see why people really care about Broly doing less damage than other characters, around his level. Like, because keep in mind, Broly also has the domain skill too, which can strengthen the attacks of other units around him. That, by the way, do more damage than Broly, like considerably more. In fact, there's one character that I haven't ranked yet, which we will go over soon, that can hit crazy high numbers while also being a very safe unit in general. But in Broly, he's very good. Also, you can get these revival skill off as well. Like once you get to his 5th turn, which, by the way, if you do his revival skill, by the way, if you do his domain skill turn 1, that does lead in quite nicely to his revival skill. As the first turn you don't have the domain, the revival skill's up. So, like, this guy's pretty much never vulnerable in like the current meta. Once we get longer fights as well, in Broly we'll have an advantage over Beast Gone, and that's because you can save his domain skill. You don't have to do it turn 1. This means that in a fight where Beast Gohan, his damage reduction might just become a non, like Beast Gohan could lose his damage reduction like before the climax of a fight. In Broly, you could potentially save his domain skill. So Broly's at his absolute peak quite late into the fight, during the climax of like some of these future battles. And that will matter. That will matter going forward. But yeah, anyway, the future proofing's not the reason he's higher than Beast Gone. Of course, it's not though, because this is like for current units, right? The reason Broly's higher than Beast Gone is literally just because his team's way better. Like Broly's team does way more damage than Beast Gone's team. You've got units that can hit crazy high numbers, and that does matter because you can clear the event quicker. If you can clear the event quicker, there's less turns you actually need to have uber strong tanks on your team. And there's less turns where you could potentially die to a stray super attack. Like, this shit matters. Being able to deal high damage to the boss and kill them quickly, that is a factor a lot of people don't seem to consider for some reason. Like, I know that defensive teams are better than offensive teams, but when your defensive team is just straight up better offensively than your other defense team, I think that is something that we should probably account for, right? Surely. Like, it's just basic maths. The less turns you're exposed for, the less likely you're gonna die. But I digress. I think Broly's incredible. He has the domain skill, and he's very tanky during that domain skill. He can go in slot 1. He's very good in slot 1 as well. He does also, I didn't talk about this, but he does also have the healing as well. If you collect if you collect type orbs with him, he can heal. He also orb changes too, which isn't that crazy if you're only running one in Broly, as you can't orb change the same turn you do the domain skill, which is very unfortunate. So usually you only get one turn of orb changing through it. But if you run a second Broly, so if you run a Broly's the friend, he can do his as long as he's on a separate rotation during the domain skill activation. It can orb change immediately, so you do get a bit more value out of that, obviously, if you run two. And post revival, if you get this Broly's revival skill off, he does also create his own in orbs, which works really nicely with his passive healing, as he can heal insane amounts of HP from collecting those in orbs. And he also does have support as well, which is really good. And I didn't mention this, I forgot to mention this, but with his entry animation, he also does give 40% defense for 4 turns for extreme clash units. That is pretty good. That does make your other units a lot tankier. Of course it does, right? And because it's for 4 turns, it can support off rotation too, which is great. There is only one unit though that does deserve to be number 1, and that is Tech Broly. Out of every unit that I've listed on this list, there's only one unit that I think is tankier overall than Tech Broly, and that is Age Old During, specifically during the standby mode. But Tech Broly, he does do a lot more damage than Durin though, and I would say he's an overall way better unit than Durin. But yeah, Tech Broly is just very good. He is a character you can transform immediately, which does have a lot of strengths, as it means that he's gonna link pretty much with anyone turn 1, even himself. Because you could just refuse to not, because you can just easily refuse to not transform one of the Broly's, right? And then he can link with himself for that one specific turn. And being able to link with other legendary Super Saiyan Broly's is pretty big, as we do have quite a lot of good Broly's with that name right now. Such as like the LR one that we just talked about. But there's also the STR Super Easy A one as well, which is pretty decent. But yeah, this guy also in base, he does have the 90% damage reduction as well as the 60% support for extreme for that one turn, which is very good. He also has the crit chance as well, so you can strengthen your character's chances to perform a critical hit. In slot 2 and 3 isn't as good defensively, unfortunately. You can take pretty high damage is a slot 2 or 3 as in base Broly, as 70% damage reduction, while it is good, it doesn't make your character invincible, especially with relatively low defense. You can take quite a large amount of damage from super attacks, I've found. But it usually doesn't get you killed, but he can take high damage, something to keep in mind. Once he's transformed though, this guy's crazy good. Once he's transformed, he does have a little bit less damage reduction for slot 1, which is true. I forgot to mention he does guard in Broly as well. Yeah. But Broly does guard pretty much no matter what in a slot 1 position. But yeah, because transform he has the less damage reduction, obviously, while still guarding. But his defense is so much higher. That will make up for having less damage reduction, as he usually does take less damage provided he does super attack first, just because his defense is way higher, right? But this Broly does very high damage. Once you get to his following turn as well, which you can get his active skill, by the way, second active skill, you can get it as early as turn 3 if you decide to transform in immediately, which is an option, by the way. Definitely is an option. But this guy can hit like 30 mils time from turn 3. Yep, 30 million damage. Like, this guy does have built-in crit when he's transformed too, by the way. Like, this guy does a shit ton of damage while also being effectively invincible. I've ran this guy in short events and long events. This guy pretty much doesn't die. This guy, he never dies. He's just too strong. But could you get him killed though? I mean, potentially if you get to like turn 5, assuming you transform immediately and you throw him like in slot 2 against a strong super, Like he could die if your HP's already been lowered quite a bit, but like, I think you have to try to get this guy killed though. Like I would say like everyone in the top 5, you have to try to get them killed. Like legitimately try. And even if you do try, they might even survive still, right? Like everyone in the top 5, like take UI Goku, you pretty much have to not refuse to transform him to get him killed, right? Because like unless you just get really unlucky. But the luck factor is definitely something I've taken into consideration. But like Janemba, like how is Janemba getting you killed, right? Like unless like you have to like you throw him slot 1 turn 1. If he dodges the super, he's probably still gonna get you out alive. Like I've ran him slot 1 against Janemba, like the Janemba Memorial Battle. Like he dodged the super and I survived with 9,000 HP and then Fat Boo died. And because Fat Boo died, I revived. And I was fine. like 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 you pretty much have to go out your way to see some of these units fail on this list, dude. I'm sorry. You just do. And Tank Broly is probably the biggest example of you have to try to get him killed. like getting Tech Broly, like seeing Tech Broly get KO'd in anything other than base form is really hard. Like it's probably harder than straight up winning every fight with him. I'll be real. Uh, but yeah, that concludes the list. We've ranked all the units from top 15 all the way up to number 1. Um, let me know, guys, if you agree with this list. Let me know if you disagree. Um, I do apologize for skipping over some of these characters' abilities. Like Jiren, I didn't even mention he gets stronger when he gets hit by a super, for example, right? I'll be real. It's just so unnecessary to his design. I just completely forgot about it. But like this is the list, right? Like, let me know if you guys disagree, agree with some of these placements. I think there's going to be some that are going to be quite controversial. Like in Evolution, Blue Vegeta being so separate from Age UI Goku is probably going to be very controversial. I am fully aware. I'll be real though. I think people are just too scared to separate them just because they're released during like the same anniversary and the EZA during the same anniversary too. Age UI Goku does have a considerable amount of advantages over in Evolution Blue Vegeta, though, at least in my opinion. I think Tech Gogeta's placement's probably going to be pretty controversial as well, but I've used him. Like his impact on these fights just isn't that significant right now. Maybe when we get some harder fights where the 4C ability can be very, very much more useful, he might go up. But right now, I don't really see him. I don't really see the vision. Um, but I do want to say though, every single one of these units is pretty good though, and I would say you're gonna benefit from owning them. So their placements don't really matter that much. Like these are all really good characters at the end of the day. The position doesn't really matter too much. If you guys enjoyed this extremely long video, feel free to leave a like, or don't, just dislike the video because you disagree with it. That's cool too. And if I decide to upload another video, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.